I'm twice divorced. Now, that was not my plan, but it taught me a lot. I've learned that there's a difference between a marriage that ends and a marriage that fails. And most people have never really heard anyone name that distinction. So I'm going to give it a shot. A marriage that ends is one where two people build something real together, based on emotional and spiritual connection and maturity. They developed a genuine friendship at the foundation, and they believed in each other's dreams. They raised children, or maybe they didn't, but they showed up for each other. They were each other's soft place to land. And then life moved them in different directions, and the passion shifted. The project felt complete, and they had enough love and respect for each other to say, hey, I think this chapter's done, but you still matter to me. It's not easy, but they agree that the passion has faded and it's time to move on. I've witnessed that kind of ending, and it's bittersweet, not bitter. There's no one to blame because both people worked at it honestly, and they arrived at the truth together. Do you know what that looks like? It looks like two people at their children's graduation or wedding, standing side by side, genuinely happy to see each other. They're not performing for their child. Actually, they're sharing joy, not triggered by old wounds that never got talked about, because you're still friends. It's just a different kind of caring, but that love is still real. You'll show up when your friend needs support and care. I've seen people living that. Honestly, I've wished that my marriages ended like that. But a marriage that fails, well, that's something entirely different. People think that it's about disagreements, but it's not that. Every marriage has disagreements. It's not even about growing apart. People grow, that's normal, that's healthy. A marriage that fails is when there's no room for repair and reconnection. A failed marriage isn't about two mature, respectful people. At one extreme, it's plagued with abuse. And at the other, it's plagued with emotional neglect. When the poop hits the fan, they disappear. Every healthy relationship moves through a cycle. Harmony, disruption, repair, and back to harmony again. Disharmony is not a sign that something is broken. That's just how two people live together honestly. The disruption is normal, and when addressed, the repair is the difference that would lead to either an end or a failure, because repair requires love and real friendship, the kind built on kindness, empathy, and the ability to be accountable without defensiveness. It's about facing hard truths as adults, but when that friendship foundation, it was never really there, or when one person doesn't have the skills or the desire to build it once that chemistry wears off, there's nothing to repair and go back to. So the cycle is completely different. It's more of a dance of performance or a sales pitch followed by disruption and pretending everything's okay, and then disruption and pretending everything's okay, until one or both people forget if that harmony ever really existed, or was it a mirage fueled by the throes of early chemistry. I recently met two men, both married to their wives for over 50 years, and they're both caregivers, and I asked each of them what made their marriage last. Now, the first man's face lit up. He talked about his best friend, about how hard times they came through together, and about how they first met and the disagreements that drew them closer afterwards. His face and his voice softened talking about her, talking about how lucky he was to have her be the mother to his children. Asking the second man the secret to a long marriage, he shrugged and he said, look, neither of us died or left, so I'm still with the old ball and chain. And then he talked about his successful career and proudly bragged about what his kids have accomplished for a living. One of those men is in an emotional union where he talked about how he will miss her when she's gone. The other one, he's just marking time until one of them goes. It's a business contract that's going to end. I spent over 20 years seeking the former, but ended up with the latter. And my first ex-husband, he called me way worse than an old ball and chain. I stayed even when it became dangerous. So why is that? There is a belief that I was raised with that staying is holy and leaving is failure. That the length of a marriage is proof of its success. That divorce is something that happens to people who just didn't try hard enough, or they quit when it got hard. I tried hard enough both times for years. You can hear the righteousness and the judgment that I grew up around, can't you? That's called spiritual bypassing. And here's what I know now. You cannot repair a marriage alone. Oh, you can try, God knows I tried. But repair is a two-person job. And when only one person shows up for it, what you end up with isn't a marriage. It's just a convenient living arrangement. I want to tell you about a friend of mine. Her first marriage ended, not failed, it ended. There was no one else for either of them. They were good friends who realized that the romantic chapter was kind of kaput. They stayed as housemates for almost 10 years because, well, they liked each other and neither wanted to be alone. So when she eventually fell in love with someone new, her first husband encouraged her. He cheered her on. They had lunch together after they submitted their divorce papers. He co-signed the mortgage for her to be able to get her condo, and he set her up for financial success. But her second marriage failed. Instead of ending, the only peace she could find was by going no contact and needing a lawyer to keep her safe. And through all of it, her first husband has been her friend. They have dinner almost every week. They take care of each other's cats whenever necessary. They talk about everything, and they argue like brother and sister. It's kind of cute. They were friends before they got married, and they became friends again after the marriage portion ended. And that's what it looks like when a marriage ends. They should feel physically safe to be around and emotionally available when things get hard for them. But when you cannot trust or rely on the person to be emotionally there for you, when you are certain that you do not matter to them, that's when a marriage fails. I've not had the experience of a marriage that ended. Both of mine failed in very different ways, at different ends of the relationship spectrum. The first one was loud. There was physical and psychological harm. I left with my young daughter, and I didn't look back, just doing my level best to protect her from the fallout from that marriage. The second one, that one was quiet. No raised voices, no raised hands, just a chronic dismissal and feeling insignificant when I needed help. Not worthy of love. It was an abyss of neutral emotions for me. I experienced the loneliest a person can feel while surrounded by other people, until I finally raised my voice out of anger, but I didn't even get a reaction. And eventually I was able to leave. There's a word I've been sitting with for what kept me in both of them longer than I should have stayed. It's not weakness. It's not stupidity. It's the belief handed to me by my religion, my family, my culture, that staying is holy and leaving is failure. That belief is a cage. It's a quiet one. The kind with no bars you can point to, and a lot of people are living in it right now. I don't believe in divorce as much as I believe in love. That's why I stayed. And when the latter is impossible, then divorce is the only way to go. I believe that now. And as I share my story with people, I get messages and phone calls, and if you identify with what I've been talking about, there's no shame in identifying which type of ending you are having. Self-awareness demonstrates strong emotional intelligence, and it's going to empower you to end in friendship and in peace. But like I've been saying, it's a two-person job. So now that I've gotten that out of the way, I hope you'll continue with part 2 of the series of thoughts on why I stayed and kept trying even when I knew something was wrong. The foundation of friendship in a healthy relationship, it always has room for repair, for trust, and a soft place to land. It all starts there. So I hope you're going to join us. And I have a question for you. Do you agree with my distinction between a healthy ending and a failure? I'd love to know your thoughts.